Here we go in 3, 2, 1. One of our final episodes for the season here with Fuhrmy on the Anonymous Gambler podcast. I am the Goose. Sometimes I don't even know my name. I shouldn't know my name, especially after an 0-3 week last week. Fuhrmy comes in. He's got the goose egg going the other way, 3-0. What's that put you at, Fuhrmy? Is that 20-17? What are you at right now?
I think that's right. 20 and 17.
20. No. Check. Kill. You're 20-16. I'm 19-17. You've came through big here. That was what a solid week last week. Let's talk about that. We could be super positive about that, Fuhrmy. Tell me what you're thinking here. What went right with you? You know what I mean? You've had a couple barn burners there. What was the change? What do you think made it that you went from 1-2, 2-1 to get that 3-0 on the board to help build that record?
I don't know. So, as we talked last week, a lot of those games had really big point spreads because of the non-Power 5 conference opponents. So I sort of took some risks there, and Kentucky just sort of blew. The Kentucky Middle Tennessee State game was just a scoring fest. And then probably what helped me most last week was the Citadel actually playing with Bama for about half of the game, and it allowed Bama to play 4 quarters, which let that over hit. And then, of course, Missouri just trampled Tennessee, which they covered with ease.
Well, so, Citadel definitely woke Daddy. There's no question.
Yep.
They made the Bear pretty angry. Looking at this slate, it's so much better than what we've seen in the past couple weeks. What are you feeling here? You and I talked about 3-4 games. What do you think you're leaning with? Let's start putting some picks on the board.
All right. So probably my favorite pick of the week is an over. I'll take a page out of your book.
Woo!
And sort of stay on what helped me last week, and that was betting a couple overs. So I'm going to take Mississippi State at Ole Miss. I'm going to take the over. It's right now sitting at 59. Mississippi State put up 52 last week against Arkansas at home. I know Mississippi State's on the road this week, but their offense is starting to come around. They look pretty good. 3 out of the last 4, besides that Bama game. And Mississippi State, Mississippi rather, their defense is sort of leaking oil at this point. They've given up 36, 38, 48, 31, and 33 the last 5 weeks.
I like how you said that, leaking a little oil. Here's my question, and I think that everyone's kind of thinking the same thing. Ole Miss, this is all they have to play for. Is this an all-out game? Because last year, didn't Fitzgerald get hurt, and then Ole Miss came back and won the game?
I think you're right. I think this is the game where Fitzgerald got hurt.
He went down.
Yep. And what's awesome about this game is, of course, it's a rivalry week, right? So both teams are going to be hyped. As you mentioned, this is sort of Ole Miss's bowl because the sanctions are still in play, as we were talking about a little bit before. So I'm hoping that Ole Miss's offense keeps them in this game, and it truly is a 4-quarter game, because I think that's only going to help the overhit. At 59, it really needs to go 3.5 to 4 quarters.
This is all they have to play for. This is Thanksgiving night. This is it. And the spread is Mississippi State -11. So, you're looking at double digits here. And the total's gone up a half point, 58.5 to 59. Do you have... Is there some kind of renewed faith in Fitzgerald? Isn't he awful?
Well, he's been awful throwing the ball. I will say the second half of the year he's improved his passing numbers. He finally has a positive touchdown to interception ratio at 2-1. So he's up to 14 touchdowns, 7 picks. But their run game has been phenomenal all year, and I have no reason to believe that's going to stop. I think they're going to run right through the Ole Miss defense, and I'm just hopeful Ole Miss can put up some points to keep it, like I said, keep it close through at least 3 quarters.
It's so funny now you're taking overs and I'm actually taking spreads, because I'm really going away from what found me a lot of success, which was a bunch of overs. Last week I got crushed. Minnesota was just atrocious. I mean, they were awful. Baylor, same thing. I mean, I'm just sick to my stomach about the way that they played that game. That Nevada, San Jose State, just a total misread. But the other two I watched and was just I was just like, by the time at halftime, I went, there's no chance I'm going to win these games. This is horrible. And we're looking at 2.5 and 1 point lines. I mean, come on. All you got to do is win. And that's how I feel about my first pick this week. I'm going back to my Sun Belt, and I'm taking Coastal Carolina -1.5. And I think the Chanticleers get a win. Here's my rationale. There's already more bowl teams eligible in the Sun Belt than they actually have bids available to them. But the Pac-12 looks atrocious. The Big 12 is going to lose 2 no matter what. The AAC has the potential to lose 2 more. Right there, you're looking at somewhere in between, I think it's like 6 to 8 picks. 6 to 8 teams that are going to lose their potential eligibility. And I think that some of the smaller conferences, the better teams in the smaller conferences, are going to get a higher bump up in their bowl. And I think that's going to open up the door for someone like the Sun Belt or the Mountain West to come in and take a bid. I really like Joe Mo. I think that he's done a phenomenal job with this team. I've kind of watched them from the very beginning. You know, I used to like to take them with an over, but that was last year. You know, they ground and pounded out. It's past senior day. It is in South Alabama, but I think that this team wants this win. And even if they don't get bowl eligible with a 6th win, I think that will be a chip on their shoulder because they don't have very many seniors. I think they've only got 11. And I think this team is a legitimate contender to potentially be in contention for a Sun Belt championship next year. They've hung with who they've played, and they've played well, in my opinion, for Sun Belt play. At 1.5, again, I'm taking them on the road. I would prefer to see them at home, but let's put them in there. Coastal Carolina -1.5. Goose is putting it on the board against South Alabama. Which, here's a fun fact: I was doing my research for me. In the year 2020, they are going to create a Myrtle Beach Bowl. So I can tell you right now, we can hop on that Spirit Airlines, go down to Myrtle Beach in the winter, and go to a bowl game. Maybe they'll let us do the podcast live from Myrtle Beach. And then, you know, you boys in your FGS, CQ, WQED, whatever it is, you guys can go down there and play some golf. That doesn't sound like a bad gig for me. I'm just throwing that out there.
No, it doesn't. It's only like $79 to fly Spirit or something.
And it only costs $79 to stay the whole week down in Myrtle Beach and eat. So, but let's try to get a couple winners here. Let's try. If we get 3 winners, if you go 3-0, you can afford your whole trip down to Myrtle Beach. So, tell us here, what's your second pick you're looking at this weekend?
All right. So my second pick, I'm going to go another over. I'm going to stay on the over train, and I'm going to take Tennessee at Vandy over 50.5.
Woo!
So Vandy's offense has come alive, and that really happened after Keyshawn Vaughn, their dynamic running back, came back a couple weeks ago. Just the past couple weeks, they put up 36, 28, 45. So they're putting up numbers. I know Tennessee's defense is probably a little bit better than all 3 teams they've played the last 3 weeks. But Tennessee just gave up 50 last week to Missouri. So they're still on the rocks a little bit. I think Jeremy Pruitt's done a pretty good job, all in all. And I still like Vanderbilt in this one. The line right now is 3.5, Vandy favored. But I'm going to go ahead and take the over. I think it probably will go into the fourth quarter before it hits. I don't really foresee a blowout or a lot of offense by any means, but 50 points isn't a lot in college football, as you know. So I'm going to go with the over.
It's a lot. It's a lot, especially for Vanderbilt. This is a bowl bid game, isn't it? Winner goes.
Yeah. Winner goes. Absolutely.
Interesting. Very.
And Vandy, I mean, as you know, the history there. I mean, they've been bottom dwellers in the SEC for years.
Right.
You know, bottom third of the conference. So this is a huge game for them. That's part of the reason why I like them to win and cover. by that 3.5 as well. But I think the over is the play here.
Well, the last time they made a bowl was James Franklin, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
that could be big for this program. We've been following them pretty well this entire year. You know what I mean? I think that they're a pretty good team. I've tried to stay away from Tennessee because I think that they're wildly inconsistent, but this would be a very big win for their coach and a very good statement for their team because I can't remember the last time that Tennessee was in a bowl. Wasn't it like Josh Dobbs? That was like, what, 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah.
If
Dobbs has been on the Steelers. This is his second year.
second year?
Yeah, so it would have been 3 years ago.
3 years
Yep.
ago. He might not have made a bowl his senior year, so he may. If he did, he lost. I can tell you that much. I think I remember that. He probably played someone from the SEC and got smoked. I can't remember. I'd have to look at it, or the Big Ten, one of those two. When they were actually stable. Whenever who's that? Butch Davis? Who was the old head coach?
Correct.
Okay. Wow. I'm pulling this out of thin air. I'm doing this purely on memory. Speaking out of thin air, thanks Maryland for totally screwing up my teaser last week. That was just I'm flabbergasted by this entire Maryland scenario. I have no idea how to read this team. They're 5-6. They're looking for a bowl win. A bowl bid. I'm taking the over. I'm taking them the over against Penn State. It's dropped 2 points. I have no reason, rationale, or justification why. Penn State has played no one with an offense the past 2 weeks. Wisconsin, disheveled. Rutgers, awful. They went against Michigan in the Big House and got completely and totally embarrassed. What leads me to believe that Penn State will not be the Penn State of old? Nothing. I think that Miles Sanders is still good. I think that that this is one of the last, second to last tryout for Trace McSorley. If he's going to make a legitimate push to potentially go into the NFL draft, I think this is it. This is a 35-42 point festival for Penn State. I think Maryland, their backup, I can't pronounce his name, he's going to huck and chuck. They did it all against Ohio State. And I understand that Penn State's defense statistically is better than Ohio State's, maybe not by much, but it is. I think it's just a huck and chuck fest. I really do. It was watching that game last week. If you're sitting there saying, oh yeah, we should run the ball, you're out of your mind. Both teams. I cannot see them running the ball. I don't care if it's 14 degrees outside in State College, Pennsylvania. They're throwing this ball, and I see that this number might drop. I might wait till 53 and get it because the under's at minus 15, 115 right now. I'll probably buy the half point just because I have to, because something stupid would, of course, happen to me. Like it'd be like, some stupid number like 31-22. So I'm going to take the chance of the push away. But I realistically can't see this game anything less than 35-24. I can't. And especially because Maryland has made this a rivalry by not shaking hands with Penn State and what they've done in the past, I have to believe that they want to put a hurting on this team badly. So give me that over 53, 53 and a half, whatever it is. I'll put it at 53 and I'll pay the juice on it. For Maryland at Penn State, that's 3:30 on Saturday. Fuhrmy, we are rocking and rolling. What do you got here for the last one? What are you going to decide? I know you had 2 left that you were thinking about. What are you going to go with?
Yep. So I'm going to take Florida minus 5.5 at Florida State.
Woo!
Yeah. So part of it is Dan Mullen back at Florida this year and his first real taste of a rivalry game as the head coach. This is a big game, as you know, for head coaches in the state of Florida for recruiting and just, of course, bragging rights. So it's always a pretty emotional game. I love watching this one every year. And, of course, as a Gator fan, I love watching Florida State lose. So this could be a double win or a really painful double loss for me. But either way, I like how Florida's offense, Felipe Franks, has looked pretty good the last 2 weeks after sort of being on the rocks about possibly being pulled as a starting quarterback. He's bounced back pretty nicely with 2 solid games, and he hasn't turned the ball over near as much as he has early in the year. And on the Florida State side, they've struggled. They're playing to get in a bowl. This is a pretty big game for them. They're sitting at 5-6 on the year, and they're coming off probably their biggest win of the year to even give them a chance to get into a bowl. and that is they beat BC last week by 1. So pretty big win, but I'm still taking the Gators this week. I think they're fighting for a pretty good bowl game this year. They're sitting at 11th in the nation right now and could crack the top 10 with a win, depending on what else happens. So would be a really solid season for them.
We talked about this. Now, if Florida State wins, this makes them bowl eligible, correct? They're sitting at 5 wins.
Yep, correct.
Okay. And so you think the Gators are going to come in and put the stomp down on this and say, nope?
Yeah, and I think that's added incentive for them. I mean, as a rivalry, and this is their biggest rivalry, even though it's out of conference, this is an in-state recruiting battle type of game. And probably UCF and South Florida has entered that mix as well, as good of years as they've both had. But this is a really big game, like, for the future of the Gators, and Mullen being able to make a statement in his first game as the head coach in the rivalry matchup.
Interesting. I'm looking at that for me. I'm kind of doing a little stats here on the side, kind of writing some things down. Here's my question for you. Is this a projection game for Florida in the future? Like, I don't know how deep they are depth-wise, but, this could legitimately put them in contention for a pretty good bowl game, and by doing so, they might set themselves up. Now, I don't know how deep they are as far as seniors are concerned, but is this a game that if Florida wins, like, we might want to really take a serious look at Florida going into the bowl season here?
Yeah, I mean, if they crack the top 10, they're going to definitely have a New Year's Day bowl. That might have already been sort of clinched, barring just getting blown out by Florida State. So I think they're going to have a really solid bowl. I think it's a really good big game. And like I said, for future recruiting, this is a pretty big game for in-state recruiting, which is always pretty heavy in Florida. Florida and Texas and really Pennsylvania and California. Those are, like, I would say, the 4 main states for recruiting.
I know I have a bunch of friends who are Florida State fans, and they have no faith in Willie Taggart. I mean, they are like, wow, he's bad. You know what I mean?
Oh, and they started the year really bad.
Horrible. They started horrible.
Horrible. They bounced back recently, but they sort of they got blown out by Notre Dame, and they got blown out by, there was one other pretty major opponent they played in the last couple weeks. Slipped my mind here. 1 second. Clemson. They lost by 49 to Clemson.
Ugh, gross.
So, yeah. So, I mean, they haven't really put up good fights until really last week when they somehow beat BC, who's looked very good.
Speaking of blowouts here, and I'm going to go to my last pick. It's funny, you went with 2 overs. I'm going to go with 2 overs this week. I watched that Houston-Tulane game, and I watched De'Aaron King go down, and he is really good, and that is a crying shame because this over probably would have been in the 80s, and I still would have taken it. Houston's playing Memphis in Memphis. This is, if you're looking at Houston's numbers, and I'm so happy they did what they did the previous week. They beat SMU 28-18 and barely got out of there. I mean, they were not thinking about SMU at all. They were completely and totally thinking about this Houston game, and rightfully so. The sideline with Houston, with Ed Oliver, was I was like, wow, I can't believe this is going on. This dude's a monster, and he's getting into a fight with his head coach over a jacket because if you're not playing in the game, then you don't get a jacket and it's cold. And, I mean, he was like running at him. Houston is a wet paper towel on defense. And I saw them live, and when Ed Oliver did play in Navy, and Navy ran all over them too. Memphis is good on the ground, and they're just as good, if not better, in the passing game. Houston's backup they brought in, it was like this like true freshman that they brought in. This kid showed absolutely and totally no fear. First drive coming out of the third quarter, just hucks and chucks it, boom, touchdown, none. The skill positions for Houston are still there. Even though De'Aaron King is out, they're still good for at least 20, 28 points. They're good for 4 touchdowns. I think Houston puts up at least 42. I mean, this is, and I understand they're sitting at 70, and you're sitting there going, well, that's like 73. Yeah, I know. But trust me, they're good for, when I say at least 42, I mean, they're going, that's the minimum. I potentially could see them putting up 49 points. And I think that Houston will put up probably 28 to 31. So give me the over. I think 75.5 was the right number to start with. I will definitely be all over this Houston-Memphis over. So we have Fuhrmy with Mississippi State, Ole Miss over 59. Myself with Vandy, Tennessee over 50.5. Florida minus 5.5 over Florida State, and then I'm going Coastal Carolina minus 1.5. Penn State, Maryland over 53. You got to pay the juice on that. If not, it's 53.5. And then Houston, Memphis over 76. For me, I was thinking, and I wanted to run this by you here before we sign off. How do you feel about doing two different podcasts as we go into bowl season? What if we did one where, well, we did one every week, for the bowls that are going on. We could kind of be like, 3 days ahead of whatever it is. So, yep. We would we would tape on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and then it would be for the week and the whole 9 yards. And then if there's anything the following week, that Sunday, the line should be out. But how do you feel about doing a confidence pick? Because Stritz runs that, where we actually give our confidence picks. How do you feel about doing a confidence pick bowl podcast?
I like it. We got to just do it before I think we have to do it before, I want to say like the 20th of December or something. I don't, sort of pulling that date out of the air, but.
Right.
Yeah, it's usually like the week before Christmas, I believe.
Is when the bowls start.
When that all sort of starts and kicks off, yeah.
Right. I think the first bowls start like the 14th to 15th of December, so that gives us some time to get our stats down, take a little breather here. We've been going all the way through. It's been outstanding. I just want to say, on the record, it has been outstanding doing this with you. I have thoroughly enjoyed this the entire season, and I'm ready for some bowls, and then we're going to be ready for some college basketball here soon too. As soon as these games start, they come back in and get in conference play. It's going to be some pretty exciting times here, getting ready for March Madness there, Fuhrmy.
I know, and I'm watching a heck of a game right now. The Auburn-Duke game Auburn's down 8 with a minute and a half to go, and they have some explosive guards. They're going to be fun to watch this year.
Love it. Can't thank you enough for doing this with me the whole season, Fuhrmy. You've been nothing short of outstanding. Let's no matter what you do, you're finishing with a winning record. That's great, but you have the chance to get into the high 50% here with another 3-0 week, and that would be nothing short of fantastic.
I know it. Thank you. Thanks for all your work and giving me the opportunity to join you each week. It's been a blast. Absolutely.
Look, this is not the end. This is purely the beginning here. So we've been kind of riding out the highs and the lows. But hang on the line here. I'm going to close this out, and then I'll talk to you a little bit more about college basketball. All right.
All right.
Hey, there's our final week 13 Fun with Fuhrmy segment we've been doing all year. It has been great. Fuhrmy is sitting at 20-16. I'm at 19-17. Boy, wouldn't it be nice if we could finish over 55% for a winning record for the year. Listen, I hope everyone has a fantastic Thanksgiving. I hope everyone has a great holiday weekend. Be safe in your travels if you're going out. Take some picks. Take some winners. Get after it. And we will talk to you guys as soon as the bowls are set. We'll have our two different podcasts. One that we'll actually have with the confidence polls, and then one we'll have every week with our lines. Until then, everyone take it easy and have a great holiday.